Well, it's been a year since I launched the Peachy Tips YouTube channel. What have I learned? What have been the ups and downs? And what am I going to take into year 2? Well, stay tuned and find out. It's been great. I'm Peachy, and this is Peachy Tips. So when I launched the channel, the plan was to pretty much heavily focus on Warhammer, Games Workshop content. And that made sense because that's where I came from. That's what I knew. And I did quite well to start off with. I did a little sort of teaser trailer before I actually launched in March. So that kind of went out in February time, and that got me a fair amount of subs, which was great. And I was super excited, and I was like, right, let's get cracking. I knew nothing about editing. I knew nothing about audio or videography. Well, a little bit of videography, but not really editing and audio. Knew nothing about that lot. And it was a big learning curve. So I spent most of February after doing like a quick trailer, which was terrible. I mean, watch it, it's awful. But you know, it's your first video. Content is king, as they say. Just good is better than perfect. And that is there's gonna be a lot of things here, I guess, if you're wanting to start your own channels, you can probably like look at and go, yep, I won't do that. And oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I won't do that either. So I started strong by doing something Space Marine orientated, which made sense. And I made 3 videos. There was like a general how to paint video about Space Marines and like using like sprays and how you go about base coating and what dry brushing is. So kind of useful techniques. And I might repackage that at some point, or at least change the thumbnail and the title so it's a little bit more engaging maybe. But long story short, I made 3 videos about Space Marines. One, the general tips, and then covering the first founding of the Loyalist chapters, and I kind of split that into 2 videos. And I kind of put them all in the same weekend, which was a terrible idea now in hindsight. I could have kind of fed them out across a week or 2, which would have given me a week more, I guess, for doing like content and be a week ahead, because that's one thing I've struggled with from doing this is it's always been quite hand to mouth. So I'd be like filming on a Monday and a Tuesday, do some editing on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, finalize some bits here on a Thursday, and then launch on Friday. And I'd do that, rinse and repeat every week. And I've been doing that for like a whole year. And it's been great fun, don't get me wrong, but it is sometimes a lot when you're like, oh, back to square one. I mean, having a week in advance would be good, because then I could keep on top of things a little bit more and not get a little bit overwhelmed. Doing that rinse and repeat every week kind of focuses you on just getting the content done, and you kind of forget all the stuff around the peripheral, especially when you're running a business or whatever like that. I mean, it is a business technically, but I'm just painting toy soldiers and videoing it and showing you guys stuff that I know and want to pass on. But that was the initial launch, was I had these ideas of doing all stuff Games Workshop related and covering loads of things like Warcry warbands and Necromunda warbands or gangs, and then kill teams and this, that and the other. And eventually across a year there'll be enough stuff and content that you can pretty much paint anything from the Games Workshop range, near enough. And that was a great strong plan, and I did a couple of good videos which I was really proud of, apart from, like, in hindsight, some of the technical issues. So there was the Space Marine paint guide, which I am still proud of, and I think it still gets a lot of views. It's very what they call evergreen, so it will just keep like getting views over time, because people like either watch back over it, or someone will suddenly discover the channel and go, oh, that's an interesting way of painting salamanders, that's really quick, or whatever. Those videos are really good for that, because evergreen videos are quite useful for channels, because they can just tinker along gently in the background, which is great. They don't get you huge views at the start, which I'll come to in a bit. But my other favorites, and I need to do more of this one. So I moved from doing like the how to paint style guide, which was the Space Marine one, to something a bit more talky head, a bit like what I'm doing here really, which is me talking at a camera, showing some visuals about the thing I'm talking about, and just generally getting excited about the topic. And one of those was the dwarfs, my favorite faction for Warhammer. I kind of just wax lyrical, and I said that a lot in the video, and I know it annoyed some people, sorry, but I did talk a lot about dwarfs, and that was why I like dwarfs and my own collections, and showing some photos of that. And for me, when I was doing it, I really enjoyed it because it was very nostalgic. It kind of reminded me of my youth, and I had so many good memories. It was just super comfy as a video. So I'd like to go back and do some more of those as well, because they are quite nice to do. And I kind of did something similar with this narrative one, where I talk about like a bunch of different collections I've made. Again, they did quite well from like a numbers point of view and, you know, positivity, but there's so many mistakes in them, so many issues. The dwarf one was the worst one, I think. So the learning from that was I was messing around with something called ducking, which when you have music going on in the background, it kind of like lowers as you start talking. And when there's like some quiet moments, it will like get a little bit higher. So if you don't know that, I played around with it and I really ruined it. And there was one bit where it just went really loud, and I think it was during a painting part. And I just kind of, well, I was very anxious and I had to like go out for a walk because I hated myself, and I put this video out and it was too late to cancel it because by that point I'd already got quite a few thousand views, and I was like, oh, do I stop it? Do I like redo that bit? But I kind of just stuck with it, and remembering what other people were saying, that, you know, because there's a lot of positive comments already coming from it. A couple of people were a bit annoyed by the noise, and I totally get that. But I kept it in, and maybe in the future I might redo it and re-release it or whatever. But yes, it's the thing about running a channel. Sometimes you just have to take those hits, especially when you're starting off. And you guys are super forgiving because you understood that. You understood the assignment. You're like, Peach is new. He's obviously discovered about editing and he's doing great with that, but now he's obviously struggling with audio things. We'll give him a pass. We'll give him a pass. But I think the audio thing has been the biggest bugbear, that, and certainly like my biggest challenge across the year. Early days, I had a little mic that would like literally plug into the camera, and it was quite cheap. It sounded cheap, obviously, when I look back now. But at the time I was like, that's okay. I know what I'm doing. I can literally plug it in. I can have it on my lapel. I can talk. And that was great. And I had some advice from people like turn upside down, because then you won't get all the pops and stuff. So there was a lot of learning, and each video I learned something new, but also made a mistake in each video. And that, I guess, is something, if you are starting your own channel or you're getting into this and you're still early days, do accept those mistakes. They will happen. Don't stress out about it. You could sit there analyzing the video and then constantly correcting it, which I have done as a learning. Don't. And you get yourself all wound up about it. Just put it out, because actually, sometimes that video, even with the audio, and I'm going to mention it now, I did a video at the start of the year, this year, so 2025, which was me talking about Rohan models and comparing Rohan Citadel figures with Victrix figures. The audio was god awful. Same audio mic that I've been using. I don't know what settings I'd done. I don't know what had happened, but it just sounded like I was in a tin can underwater. But it's done really well from viewpoint of view. And I think, as Mrs. Peach would say, it's about the content sometimes, not about how it sounds. And although some people will be put off by it, the content was what was drawing people in, and it's done well. So sometimes you just take the hit and accept it, and then learn for the next video, or at least try and correct it. And I don't know what had happened. I must have had some kind of brain fart of some kind, but definitely for a couple of videos, the audio wasn't great. It was fine before, then it wasn't great, and now I think it's okay now. I think I've nailed the settings, but, you know, in probably like 6 videos time, there'll be something else that I'll screw up on or something like that. But yeah, the early days, there was a lot of audio issues, and I think my dwarf one, as much as I enjoyed making it, was my biggest sort of like jump scare when it came to like the audio side of things, because it was just so loud in one section. I'm so sorry as well for everyone that's watched it, and it just gets really loud. It was great music though. I enjoyed the music, but I really enjoyed making those videos. But keeping to the Games Workshop content was a strong motive of mine, and, you know, it's a passion of mine. I've been doing it for years. But then something changed. And because what I wanted to do was like do a couple of like Games Workshop related topics a month, and then something else, like maybe Star Wars, or maybe some random sci-fi game, or something historical, or something like that. And up to this point, I did like a how to paint sharp, and some Rust video, and this, that, and the other, using like some Fallout figures, because I was playing around with different Rust colours. I thought that'd be quite good fun. Didn't do very well. But then some of the Games Workshop ones didn't do well, and people were saying, get the red arrow in there on the thumbnail, get a Space Marine on the thumbnail. I was like, okay, yeah, that seems to be the common trend of what to do. But I decided I wanted to talk about a game called Frostgrave, and I knew nothing about Frostgrave at that point. I got the book, I read through the book, I found it quite engaging, I found the rules quite easy to pick up. I got excited about creating warbands, so I started painting some up, started taking photos of them. I thought, this is great, I'm gonna make a video on this. And then I decided to go down the route of being a little bit cheeky, a little bit naughty, and doing a slight, I'd say mildly clickbait title, which was, is this game better than Warhammer? Basically, it's like a picture of me holding 2 books and then putting the words better than Warhammer, question mark. Big question mark, by the way. Of course, it's not at all comparable to Warhammer. Warhammer's a very different game system for a start. It's a war game, whereas this is a skirmish game. Probably if I'd done more time, then that might have been more appropriate. But to draw people into the video, that's why I did it. And I thought, I'll play the game and see what it does. Because what's the worst that can happen? More people get excited about a game they didn't know. I mean, that's not a bad thing, right? But what it did for me, and certainly what it did for the channel, was it made me realize that I didn't have to concentrate solely on workshop stuff. And to be fair, this is no sort of like digger workshop. They get a lot of free exposure from the community already. There's thousands of YouTube videos that talk about the lore and talk about like this faction that's coming out. Rob does loads of good content on the actual like battle tomes and the rules for Old World and stuff. So there's so many people out there already doing free content that Games Workshop doesn't pay for and gets all this exposure. And to me, I thought, you know what? It'd be nice to shine a light on some of these other companies that make amazing game systems and produce awesome looking miniatures. Maybe I should have a crack at that, because this video's done okay, and maybe people want to look at something that's a little bit different, that's not just Citadel, because that can be quite, well, boring and stagnant if you just keep to one gene pool of hobby, if that makes sense. So I thought I'll give it a go, and then I started looking at other games, and I started looking at Silver Bayonet, and the views were fluctuating here and there, and that's totally fine. I don't expect everyone to be excited about Sharp as much as I'm excited about it. I don't know why. I mean, it's the greatest TV show ever made, but, you know, not everyone wants to watch Sharp. Get off the channel. But it did, doing the Frostgrave video did teach me two things. One, people obviously wanted to watch something that wasn't just workshop related. They're obviously happy to see a guy get excited about something that's different, but also it goes to show for me as well that because that video did really well, that actually I don't have to keep it to just Games Workshop content. I can do more stuff. And as a weird evolution of the channel, it's moved a lot from just concentrating on workshop to actually doing lots of other stuff. Now, I've been a wargaming fan longer than I've been a Games Workshop fan, if that makes sense. So it's not really about the lore and the IP that I pick. It's about the wargaming, the hobby, collecting miniatures and painting them. And I used to do all sorts of random stuff that wasn't just Warhammer. So for me, it's quite normal for me to do stuff that isn't just Games Workshop. Yeah, granted, I was there for 20 years and I love the stuff, but I also love lots of other things, and I want to talk about them, and I want to show that to the rest of the world and shout about it and go, this is a great game and this is a great game. And the channel's now evolved into, and it might change, you know, and that's the great thing about doing this is I had a plan. I kind of kept to it for a little bit, but the plans change, and it's adapting to those changes and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And at the moment, me talking about different game systems and shining a light on lots of cool games that are new indie games or games companies that I like and I'm passionate about, that kind of shows that it's not always about it being the Warhammer. Warhammer is a big heavy hitter in the hobby sphere, but it's not the only game system out there. And it's nice to see other people see these games and go, oh, I didn't know that existed, or I never knew this company existed. Like me doing a video on Crooked Dice and 7TV, showing like my favorite models that I've painted, but also look, you can get the A-Team, and look, you can get Back to the Future and all these other cool TV shows. So many people didn't know that this company even existed, let alone that they made models from their favorite TV shows, whether that's Stranger Things or whatever. So sometimes actually having someone talk about things that aren't just what everyone else is talking about is actually quite nice and refreshing. But I'm also indebted to you folks for reaching out and suggesting great games as well. So during, I think it was the comments of the Frostgrave video, might have been Silver Bayonet, but loads of suggestions of other games to try, and 5 Parsecs, 5 Leagues from the Borderlands was one of those suggestions. And it did take me a while to kind of get on that horse, but once I was on it, it was like, this is an amazing game system. So it is interesting to see what my aim was to start off with and where it is now. And I'm actually a happier human being for it. It's great. All these amazing games, which are now quite regular features in my life. I would never have known these existed if it wasn't for you folks suggesting them, me trying new things. And then there's, of course, there's like cool companies like Victrix and Wargames Atlantic. You've got Hobday & Hicks. There's so many. There's just tons of great companies out there that do amazing plastic figures. Crooked Dice. I love the metals from Crooked Dice. Don't normally tend to. I like keeping things plastic, but they just make such amazing metal figures that are just perfect and look like all my favorite TV shows and stars, and just they're just cool. All right, I've done a video on it. It's probably up here. I'm going to do this a lot. You'll probably see lots of recommendations for videos popping up every time I say stuff. But because I've done a few videos now, like over 50, because, well, I try and do one a week. So I've got a lot to waffle on about. And yes, I will say some of them aren't as good quality as others, as mentioned at the start, because of audio and visuals, etc. Like this bit here, me talking, sometimes it'd be really dark, other times it'd be really light. But I'm kind of getting there. I'm trying to keep the settings the same. That's something, I guess, has been a learning curve, is taking note of your settings. And sometimes I do forget to, and I judge it by eye, which is terrible. So yeah, a learning curve for Peach. Now, I do want to quickly shout out this camera. I've now got two, certainly for battle reports and stuff like that. Big shout out to Dave, MS Paints Dave, for the suggestion. He's been really helpful as well. So thank you, Dave, because every now and again we'd have like a little chat and he'll be like playing with some audio devices and stuff, and he'll suggest stuff, but he knows his stuff, and that's why I'm going to listen to Dave, because he understands this kind of stuff. But he reached out early on and said, oh, what are you doing for cameras? And I was like, oh, I don't really know. I don't know nothing about cameras. And he suggested, I've got this Sony ZV-E10, and on Amazon it was like around about slightly over half price, but it was a really good bargain. But it came with a lens, and the lens is it's all 4K, and the lens can go up to quite close macro kind of levels, so it can zoom in quite close. And that is the camera I've used from the off, and it's done so well for like getting good, clean, crisp videography, photography, because you can take stills from the camera itself as well. But a massive thank you today for suggesting this camera. I know at some point I can upgrade to different lenses and get better lenses, but this lens that came with the camera has just been really good. And I think I could have easily got like a cheaper model or something that was a bit more expensive, and then I even had more expense for the lens. But if anyone's like starting and not quite sure what cameras to get, this Sony is incredible. And obviously it's got all the attachments, so you can plug it into monitors. I can live stream with it. I can attach it when I do like my one-to-one tuitions on Patreon and stuff. So I can get decent. It took me a while to get and figure that out, because I need to get the right cable. But yeah, thank you, Dave, for the recommendation of the Sony ZV-E10. I'm terrible with names and numbers. I'll drop a link in the description actually. But yeah, if you're after a camera that is good and will be useful for like vlogging or like just recording yourself painting, check out every now and again, because it does seem to have a lot of good bargains on Amazon. So yes, I probably should do an affiliate link. And that's something else, is like learning all these other stuff like affiliate links. Merch, I mean, I still need to do merch and stuff like that. I know I'm terrible, but I'm learning each day something new, and I'm trying to get better. And this year I want to get more into that. I mean, I've done a con as well in my first year, which was probably mental, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to do another one this year, August time. So if you're not a patron, be worth joining the Patreon if you want to come and join PeachCon. But I will allow it to be opened to the general public, but it makes sense just to become a patron for a month, because then it's cheaper. But yes, that'll be more details on that later. But yes, I'm learning a lot. I've had so much fun. I've learned so much about different game systems, different companies, made some great relations with lots of these companies as well. Been sponsored by a bunch of these companies. And I know some people get really offended when I guess a YouTuber creator is sponsored, because I get it. I do get it, because it's like, well, you're not going to be saying the truth now because you're being paid by these people to promote this thing. One caveat from me is I only promote stuff I either believe in or I'm excited to try, and if they're willing to pay, that's just extra money to use for the channel equipment, or to pay wages for me, or support the family, or whatever. So if a company wants to pay for me to talk about something I was going to talk about anyway, I'm going to do it. It's dumb not to. But yeah, I mean, I get why people have strong opinions about sponsorships and stuff, and you know, some people can be quite fake out there, and I do understand that. But I know, like myself and Louise, we only want to talk about stuff we care about or like. And there's been a couple of companies that I've reached out and I don't want to do anything with, because I either don't believe in the product, or I think the product's a bit too politically out there at the moment, or it's just not for me. I just not vibing it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, if I was going to say I was a sellout on one thing, you can say, Peachy, you're a sellout on this. There's a company called FlexiSpot, and they offered me a chair. I needed a new chair because my chair was rubbish, and they were like, hey, talk about our cool chair, and I was like, I'm just going to do a dumb video of me dressing up as an evil genius and talk about the chair and see if they like it. If they don't, well, sod it, they don't like it. And I got a free chair out of it. And it was, honestly, it's a good chair. So, you know, that was probably the closest I've ever got to like selling out from a sponsorship point of view. But I really enjoyed making that sponsorship video. It was good fun, and I might do more with my evil genius. But I don't expect people to watch the sponsors. That's why I always put the timestamp in it as well. So you can skip it. It's totally respect you skipping it. But what's the plan for year 2? Well, very much the same as what I'm doing now. Talk about cool new games that are coming out. Maybe some games that I've already talked about because I've got like a new add-on, maybe like Silver Bayonet, some of their add-ons that they're doing. Maybe new things for like 5 parsecs. Maybe Joe's going to do some new Stargrave or Frostgrave related content. Whatever it is, I will still do that. But I'll also look at lots of new games and do paint guides within those talky things as well. And that's something as well. I definitely think I've got a couple of video styles that I like doing. I will still do like these painting videos or painting hacks because some of them are evergreen. The masking tape one has gone wildly popular because I guess it's a useful technique. I was expecting it to be one of those evergreen videos that does okay for a few days of views and then just slowly tinkers along. But apparently people are crying out to make real simple cloaks using masking tape, which is mega. But I'll continue doing those style videos, talking head videos where I talk about game or something I'm passionate about. I like throwing in a paint guide into those because I've discovered sometimes paint guides on their own don't do as well, but throwing a paint guide into a talking head video introduces people into my style of painting, which is fast, efficient, and helps you get stuff on the tabletop a lot quicker. And that's because there's a lot of painty people out there that all have different opinions on how you paint figures. But my angle really is I want to help folks that have like jobs or at school or at college or just our parents that don't have much time to try and get some stuff on the tabletop with minimal effort, maximum effect. And that's my style of painting. I can spend longer on stuff if I want to, but I want to, because I've been there. I'm a parent and I have full-time employment. I don't always get time to do a hobby. So finding quick ways of getting stuff on the tabletop that still look really cool is my goal. And throwing those into the talking heads sometimes opens up to people that may not necessarily watch those types of videos. So, but I make it skippable because I'm kind of like that. So you don't have to watch it if you really don't want to. But yes, lots of the same. I would like to do some weird and wacky videos. I want to do some more collaborative stuff with folks as well. Broadsword Wargamer got a really good collaborative idea, so I'm eager to do that. I've been meaning to do some stuff with Lackey, Zorpazorp, and just lots of other folks as well. I want to do more stuff with Louise and Rob. Jugs is great. Having that experience through like the early sort of starting off on my channel and then like doing the chats with like Louise and Rob has been so great for my mental health, but also just because I'm sat here on my own for most of the days doing stuff and then late nights editing, but then I get to see my family during the day. So after like school finishes and like before like bedtime, we spend a little bit of time together. Sometimes there's a lot of me just chucking like ideas at Liz, or she's suggesting ideas as well, which is great. But yeah, it's nice to see Rob and Louise on a regular basis and just chat about what's up and coming in the hobby, talk about our experiences of running channels as well, which has been really, really nice, and seeing their side of it and like their challenges that they face, because a lot of it's the same. It's just like you just have different followerships or different numbers. I mean, I'm definitely not a hard hitter out there. I don't have the big numbers, but I'm okay with that because like I said before, I've got a strong loyal following of awesome people. It isn't always about big numbers for me. It's about engaging and just helping. So, but yeah, year 2, very much the same. Would like to do more battle reports as well. I've got obviously my sharp stuff I want to do some more of that V stuff, but there's like, I do want to do more Games Workshop content as well, but not as heavy as I initially started to do. I have a Gaunt's Ghost idea, so I'm going to chuck these out now, see what you think, test the water if anyone actually cares. So I'd like to do a paint guide on different regiments of the Sabbath worlds, maybe split into 2 different paint guides, so maybe like loyalists and heretics of the Sabbath world campaigns, and then a battle report, which is just scenes or chapters or parts of the Gaunt's Ghost novels, or try and reenact them as close as I can, like maybe the Guns of Tanith, because I did plan to do that for Kill Team for Warhammer TV, but it never came to fruition, and I have everything painted, so it'd be mad not to actually do that. It's Sharp in space, isn't it? Sharp in space with his chosen men, shooting heretics in the face. He's not beating our French columns, but It's fighting heretics instead. I will stop using that analogy. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I just find it funny. Anyway, yes, so that's the plan. More the same. Things might evolve and change, because that is the creative sphere, and the YouTube sphere is things do change. I might learn a lot more. I have learned some interesting things recently about like changing the file name to match the title, including tags and stuff like that. I'm constantly like trying to find ways of pushing the content out there. But one thing I will make sure I don't do is go overly negative and wild with the clickbait titles. I will do the odd clickbait title, because blame the game, not the player, because that does actually push the video out to more people. And I'm still learning. I don't think anyone ever will learn the algorithm, because that is the weirdest thing, is that you can do so much with a video, but really there are some things you really have to work on to help you push it out. And the thumbnail is key. That's the first thing people see, so they click on it. The title really helps with that as well, so having a good catchy title. And then the first 15 seconds, probably the first 15 seconds of this video is utter rubbish, and most people probably won't want to watch it, which is totally fine. I'm still working on that. But they're the three things really to help push the channel out there, get more people watching it. So sometimes they have to be a little bit sort of, I guess clickbait is the word, but I won't go mad. That's the point of what I'm trying to say, I guess, is I'm not going to make it negative. I'm not going to like, I mean, Dave, MS Paints, has done this before. He's talked about this.
I'm Dave, this is MS Paints, and this is not a GW Kick My Dog video.
So I was walking my dog the other day, and Games Workshop came over and just kicked my dog.
Sometimes I might put the question mark, like, is this better than this? Because people might go, it is. I mean, like the Victrix and Rohan, it was a good split panel of some people going, no, Rohan Middle Earth is better, and some people like, no, Victrix is better. So it was quite good to see like the engagement of people's opinions of plastic toy soldiers in that regard. But no one was negative. Everyone had just their opinions, and they kept to it. There was no arguments. No one was like attacking everyone and trolling other people, because you're all awesome. And that's the kind of people I want on the channel. But yes, I just want to say a big thank you for supporting me, for subbing, following, watching, rewatching. Patrons, you guys are awesome. You have stuck with me through thick and thin. I obviously don't always get the content out in time, or there's like reviews I've got to wait for and this, that, and the other. And you're just very patient, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for sticking with me, and giving great suggestions as well, because a lot of you reached out with like help and advice. I've got amazing people as well, like Ruby helping out with the mods and just like generally being a good sort of sound bites of like giving advice. Rob and Louise, awesome human beings. Steve and Helen in the background, always like being there supporting and like cheerleading me. I've got some amazing voice actors doing the battle reports. Landon, Nigel. I would do some love hearts, but I'm holding a mic right now. Well, I could do that. Like that. I know Louise hates that, but I'm going to do it. But yes, having great people just help out with like the voices for battle reports, it's been fun. But big thank you to Mrs. Peach and Charlie Boy, because they've had to put up with a lot, because, you know, I'm in here talking, making stupid noises, taking up the dining room table whilst playing in really important games of Sharp. But, you know, it kind of like puts dinner behind a little bit. Liz having to listen to my idea diarrhea of like, I've got this idea, and she's like, that sounds dumb. Is it got a space marine in it? I was like, no. She's like, that's dumb. I'm like, you're right, it's dumb. But yes, thank you, Mr. She's not Mr. Peach, she's Mrs. Peach. I'm Mr. Peach. But thank you. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Charlie. You're awesome human beings, and I love you very much. But yes, I will continue. Hopefully, I won't leave my own channel. Promise. I'm not going to leave my own channel. Maybe? No, I'm not. But I might make a new channel. So that's something to throw out there. A lot of people start separate channels for different content because it helps with the algorithm, apparently. And that might be why my battle reports don't do very well. Maybe because they're rubbish. Possibly. But I might actually, down the line, once I've got a few more under my belt, dedicated channel for battle reports. But I'd have to only probably do one a month, so that'll be quite a slow channel build up. But I don't care. Don't care. It just keeps them all in one place, doesn't it? Anyway, yeah, love you all. Speak to you soon. Peach out. 1 year. Oh, I didn't wear a hat and didn't get like a blower and a popper. You just have to imagine it. But yes, thank you for supporting me for a year. You're amazing. I can't believe it's been a year. It's gone so quick. It has really gone quick. But yeah, here's to year 2. Whoop, 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 whoop.